Hey, welcome to the Small Business Made Simple podcast, brought to you by socialmediaandmarketing.com.au. Being in business is never easy, but it can be simple, or at least simpler. Join me, your host Jen Donovan, every week where we focus on marketing, social media, and working towards simplifying your business. You with me? Let's do this.
If you're gonna dream it big, 'cause someone out there listening. Everyone's got a voice to give, and it's time I heard you whistling, 'cause there's no point at all, in dreaming small.
Way, hey there, my fabulous listener. Welcome to episode 256 of the Small Business Made Simple podcast. Today, we are talking about the Profit First method with my amazing guest, Amy Bett. I can't wait for you to hear all the gold that Amy has got to tell us today. But thank you for listening to my podcast. I know you have lots of choices out there, and I really do appreciate you lending me your ears today. If you enjoy this podcast, then I would love for you to take a screenshot and tag me on social media so I could get to know you, just like you get to know me a little bit every single week. And maybe you could even tag Amy Bett in that one as well, considering she's our amazing guest. Any links that is mentioned in the podcast you can find at the show notes, and the show notes for this episode are available at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/256. Couple of things before we get into listening to Amy's amazing chat with us all around the Profit First method. Firstly, did you go and have a listen to last week's episode already? Last week was all about 21 ways to grow your Facebook presence in 2023, because Facebook isn't dead in the water and is very much alive if we as small business owners use it wisely. So I had 21 hints last week in the episode 255. Head back there if you haven't had a chance to listen to that, after, of course, you've listened to this week's episode. Of course, a shout out to this week's sponsor, Seller Dash. Seller Dash develops high quality e-commerce apps and modules to boost profit, increase conversion, and save you time. They have an app for Shopify sellers. So if you have a Shopify store, come back to me here. This one is for you, because it takes away your pain when it comes to printing Australia Post labels. It will literally save you like 90% of your time that you spend creating manual labels. So Seller Dash can really actually give you the gift of time back. The app is called the My Post app. If you have a Shopify store or you're in e-commerce, then I would highly recommend that you go over and have a look at what Seller Dash has to offer at all the W's, sellerdash.io. The link, of course, is in the show notes. And finally, before we get chatting, I would like to tell you again about my 4-week email marketing masterclass that's happening in September. If email marketing has been something on your list to learn and develop in your business, or social media just is your only marketing strategy, and you're like, Jen, I need to diversify, then this 4-week high touch program could be exactly what you're looking for. You can find the link, of course, in the show notes to learn more about it, or you can go to bit.ly/email masterclass with Jen. So like I said earlier, today I have a guest on. Her name is Amy Bett, and she is a Profit First professional, which means she helps business owners take control of their cash flow and reach financial stability. This is such a great conversation. Yes, it's about finance, and I know some of us don't like talking about numbers, but it really is a really interesting conversation. So make sure you tune in for all the goodness, and you might need to listen a second time with pen and paper if you're out walking or driving. Amy just has so much gold for us in this interview. I loved our chat. I hope you do too. So here's my chat with Amy. Hey, Amy, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for joining me today.
Thank you, Jen, so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Oh, so good, so good. And we've just had such a great conversation. We've got so many, like people talk about 6 degrees of separation. I think we had 1 degree of separation, but yeah, so happy to have you on the podcast. But for my listener who may want to know more about you or may not have come across you before, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your business?
Yeah, sure. Firstly, Jen, you live in my favorite place in the world, and I'm so jealous. I'm still getting over that part of our initial conversation. But for anybody that doesn't know me, hello, my name is Amy Bett. I am the founder of Lady Without Limits. And basically, we teach business owners how to manage their cash flow through an awesome system called the Profit First method. For anybody that doesn't know what the Profit First method is, it's really a cash flow method that teaches you how to gain visibility over your finances by separating it out into different bank accounts and really being organized and on top of where you're at when it comes to your expenses, what you're paying yourself, taxes, profit, which is important. And anything else that you're really needing to invest in your business.
Yeah, beautiful. So how did you get there, Amy? Like what is your start wherever you like, but what does that journey sort of look like for you? Were you good with money, bad with money? How did that all come about for you?
Oh my goodness. I wish I could say that it was like this perfect path of, going out of uni and then studying finance and all this kind of stuff. But no, it was not that at all. It was actually very messy. So I actually became a business owner almost out of necessity. Well, it was out of necessity. I used to work for the Cotton On Group, organizing charity fund runs around Australia. And it was basically like my dream job. I loved it so much. But my husband unfortunately suffered a brain injury where he had multiple concussions, and it led to him having to finish his corporate career. He actually worked at Cotton On as well as a merchandise planner. And so it was at this very weird time of our lives where we'd just gotten married, we'd just been on a honeymoon, we just bought a house, and I was pregnant with my second child, Annie. I had another child, Lily, when I was a young mum at 20, but I was about to have Annie, and we basically had no income that was coming in because I was about to go on maternity leave or have this baby, and he was finishing up in his job to get better. But the problem was he also couldn't look after Annie because he had to go through recovery. So we needed to really pivot very quickly and figure out what our plan was. And so I was like, oh my goodness, I've got all of these amazing event management skills. I've got great corporate partners in Geelong at the time, where we were living in Geelong. So I'm just going to go out there and start my own event management business and, organize these big corporate events in Geelong. And do you know what? I did that, and it was awesome. I was so lucky that I did have those connections, because very quickly I was able to contract to Cotton On and GMHBA and these big companies in our area, Country Road. And so money was coming in, which was awesome. But also money was going out, and I just had no idea when it came to taxes and just what profit even meant, how to price my services. I had no idea really how to do any of that side. I just knew how to organize good events, which I was very proud of. And, that gave me a really good reputation really quickly. I had so many people going like, oh, look what you've achieved, especially after going through such a, crappy time with your husband. You're killing it, Amy. You've got a brand new baby. But I was literally always stressed, and I was drowning because, especially in events, it's very inconsistent revenue. You might get, say, $30,000 in your bank account, and then 3 months later, there might not be any more money coming in for 3 months or so. So it was just really big highs and then really big lows. At one point, there was literally no money in our bank account to go and buy things like nappies and groceries. And we were like, oh my God, what are we going to do? This is not responsible. And I wish I could say that, I had a really good solution at the time, and the magic fairy came in at the right moment, but there was no magic fairy at that time. And I just kept kind of slaving away, finding the money for the tax, and it would come in, and just kind of getting it there. But there got to a point where I was like, I just can't do this anymore. I'm not cut out for it. Not that I'm not confident in my skills of delivering a great service, but the business side is just so important, and I just don't have what it takes. That's literally what I told myself. And so even after talking to accountants, they're like, you're bringing in money, cash, you've just got to think like, money minus expenses equals profit. I don't know. There was just, to me, I couldn't find a good solution. So I had to lick my wounds. I decided to close the company and then figure out what my next tracks were. I got a part-time job while I was kind of working it all out. And it wasn't until I kind of realized that I definitely wanted to be a business owner. I'd had a taste of that freedom. I had a taste of that flexibility and that income, unlimited opportunity, that I decided that I had to go on this big, personal development coaching journey to figure out, one, what my next move was as a business owner, but two, I'm like, I can't be a business owner unless I know how to manage money. Because for me, I needed to understand it if my stress levels were ever going to come back down. Um, I needed to get it. And it wasn't until I found the Profit First method that and implemented into my own business. At the time, I started doing some consulting, I guess you can say, for other brands with events and event management plans, all of that kind of stuff. It changed my life, and I finally felt like I became unstoppable. I'm like, oh my God, I feel like I've got a few key things here that that make me understand what business really is all about. And that's when I kind of found out that there was a Profit First organization here in Australia. And I was like, oh my God, I've got to teach this to other business owners because I went through such a shitty time.
Yeah, right. That's yeah, a huge story, and I'm sure that that has really helped the success of your business because you've been there, you've done that type of thing. It's yeah, you're just not thought up this magical formula that you've never implemented in your own business. So thank you so much for sharing that. That is a very heartfelt story to share. So thank you. I do appreciate that for sure. But Profit First, let's dive in to that. So you mentioned in the first little intro that you're doing something about bank accounts. Now, when I've been stalking your socials and your website, you've mentioned this a couple of times about having different bank accounts. Can you maybe deep dive a little bit for us as to how many or what that looks like or what you mean by that?
Yeah, sure. So, one of the biggest things that I find when I'm talking to business owners is they just don't have clarity over their finances. And when you
Mm,
break it all down, one of the biggest problems is because it's all lumped into one or two bank accounts. And what happens is you get this false sense of security when there's money in the bank, thinking that you've got money to spend. And so we spend on other things that we need, or we think we need for the business. Whatever that may be, whatever you want to spend money on, but we often aren't considering things like our tax or paying ourselves properly or having profit in the business, and so we easily spend a lot of those things in our business. And it's not until we get to tax time that then we get the tax bill and we're like, oh, okay, where's that money? So what the Profit First method is really good at is it's giving you a structure of bank accounts to really take care of those key things that as a business owner you're responsible for paying and taking care of. So that is your operating expenses, you're paying yourself your owner's pay, profit, taxes, and then having like emergency savings on the side as well. And so the Profit First structure is really good at, I guess, giving you that clarity to doing a cash flow analysis on your business to understand how your business is actually performing right now, and then determining what bank accounts you need for your business to thrive. So every business needs a minimum of 5 bank accounts. And that is
wow.
I
Okay.
know it sounds like a lot, but trust me, once you get in the process and you start allocating it into it, it doesn't feel like a lot at all, but that's an income account. So that's where all of your cash flow comes into, and then nothing else comes out of it. And so that one account gives you so much more control over your money, because how often do you open up your bank account and then all of these expenses have come out of your income and you don't even really see a lot of that income because it's just gone again. So by having your income in a separate account, you gain that control, because then you can allocate it out first into your tax account and owner's pay and profit and expenses. And then, if there's not enough money for those things, it's then going, okay, I need to get curious. Why isn't this working?
Mm.
Do I have too many expenses, or am I not doing enough marketing, Jen, which you can talk a lot about, to bring in the revenue that I need to actually, pay myself what I need to be paid from the business, and the taxes as well, because we all need to pay taxes in our country. So yeah, I guess to wrap it all up, Profit First is amazing at showing you how your business is performing, and then giving you an awesome structure to manage it with ease.
Yeah, I know. I hear people talking about, and also, in my world of the amazing people I get to hang out with and that sort of thing, we often laugh at, we'll look at the bank statement or look in the statement as zero, and you're like, is that still coming out? Like it's something random thing we signed up for, 12 months ago. We've never used it, and all of a sudden they've taken another 12 months out, and you're like, oh, I haven't even used it. Whereas I think if you had an account that was just for expenses, you would maybe have a little bit more of an eye on that ball and be sort of thinking about it, because there's only a certain amount of money in there, as opposed to the bank account that has all the money. And so hopefully there's always money in there, and therefore things get away from you a little bit. So yeah, I know that. Yeah, I remember one of my girlfriends. She's like, I'm spending $1,000 a month on, IT that I don't even use anymore. I need to unsubscribe from all these things. But it
Yeah.
wasn't until she did an analysis, that we had chatted about, that she realized that. So yeah, that would be a problem solving part of that. So really interesting.
Yeah, massively. And that's so funny. Sometimes I still get caught out with those things. Like I'm a marketer's dream. So I'll sign up to anything that I think that will help me to move up to that next level. But then
Mhm.
again, like time is another barrier when you're a mom and, business owner and
Mm.
all things. So whether or not you actually then get the headspace to use it or not. So my husband, he's so funny. He'll bring me a post-it note every month or so, and he'll have all of our subscriptions on there. He'll be like, which ones do you actually use? And which ones do we need to cancel right now? So I do have a bit of that accountability from him. But at one point I can resonate because I did have about $1,000 a month of software and tools that I wasn't using properly. And when you have everything separated, as you said, in your expenses account, there's not as much money in there, I guess, as there would, as you said, if you've got it all lumped together. So you do get way more resourceful.
Yeah, yeah. And I think, sometimes you have to see it as well. So you see it sort of going down a lot quicker. So yeah, I love that. I'm sure that, during your course, you would dig a lot further into that. But thank you for sharing just that, level with us today. Why do we find it so hard to control our money? Or why is cash flow just something that people, no, it's a little, well, I think it's a little bit like marketing. They're like, yeah, I know I should do it. Why is that? Why do they just, why are people so flippant, I guess, with thinking about their cash flow?
I think there's a couple of different reasons. I think, particularly in Australia, but I know that this is a worldwide thing, we often don't get into business because of the money as such, or the marketing as such. We get into business to deliver the service or the product that we designed, and we're so thinking about
Do
that
the thing that we
thing.
know we're good at.
Yeah, do that thing. And also in our country, there's a bit of tall poppy syndrome is not the word, but we're humble people, and we hate to sometimes also think that we're really focused on money. So it's like, oh, I'm just here to do a good thing. I'm here to deliver a great service. It's not really about the money. But then we trick
Yeah.
ourselves that we don't need to really learn about the money. That's an afterthought. That's like at the bottom of the list, when actually, like marketing, money is really, really important in business, because without money, there's no business. We can't do the awesome things that we set out to do. We can't buy the products and the inventory. We can't, we can't pay a team. We can't really do much without money. So it becomes really important to manage it properly. I think mindset also comes into it as well. If people haven't really had a finance head on their shoulders, like I didn't, often we tell ourselves, I'm not good at money, I can't do money, therefore we just shut down, and we
Yeah.
don't really take those action steps to get in control or get that visibility, because we just don't think we've got it in us. But in reality, the funniest thing is it's actually not that hard. Once you've got a simple structure in place, and you know how to download your financial reports and read them really simply. Like I can teach business owners how to read their financial reports and understand the health of their business in literally 20 minutes. That's all it
Wow.
takes. And so with that simple process, you can check in every 3 months, have visibility over your business, have a simple bank structure where you then keep your finances organized so you're not accidentally spending your tax and everything. Yeah, and be in a much better position. So yeah, it's not as hard as people think, but I think people think that money's hard.
Do you think they're afraid of what they might see if they print out a profit and loss? That they're kind of
Oh,
like, oh, I'm too scared to look at that. I don't really want to know.
100%, because people always know what's going on without having the full visibility. They know that things aren't as great as what it seems, but it's just scared of not having the awareness or that clarity. So they're like, it's working because I'm able to just scrape by or just pay my bills, or I made a profit last month, so there's money in the bank account, so it must be okay. But just getting that awareness and that clarity gives you so much more empowerment in your business. And what I find is that people that have been scared because they know deep down that things aren't awesome, they'll get a slap in the face for a second, but then they'll feel so relieved because they've got a way forward, because they understand what to do next. Then they've got a solution or a path to improvement. And that to me is, if you can just get past that scaredness and go, no, I'm a business owner, which means I've got to put my big panties on and I've got to face it, and finances are important, as is marketing, like we talked about before. You know, these two things are crucial to our business. Then I've got to be the leader of the business, the CEO of the business, and actually lead the business. And those are the two things that really are the most important things.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think that some of us, we are too afraid to print it out and to look at it. And maybe we don't know what we're looking at, which is where, 20 minutes, someone, you can explain it to them in 20 minutes type of thing. I think that's just fantastic. Just, you don't need to look at everything. I'm sure there are bits and pieces you just need to know and to watch in order to build your business. But I was really surprised. I collaborated with 4 other amazing entrepreneurs of Australia last year, and we did the 2022 Big Small Business Survey. And I pulled out the regional data because I'm a regional girl. And when I was analysing the regional data from that survey, it was something like 54% of rural businesses weren't paying themselves a consistent wage. And I was like, why are you in it?
Yeah.
It was kind of like, maybe they're side hustles, maybe I need to give them cred. There wasn't a question to say, is this your full-time business or is this your side hustle? So maybe, they are an employee and they have a side hustle, and they answered the survey as, a business owner that perhaps wasn't full-time in their business. But it was kind of like, wow. And I think, on average, their average turnover was bit under $60,000. So I'm like, well, okay. But there was some really interesting data that came out of that. But, I know that we've had a few guests on the podcast before talking about, you have to pay yourself a wage. Otherwise, why are you in business, sort of thing? We can't do it for the love of it, like you said. But until you know that number, you don't know what you can and what you can't pay yourself for. I'm writing a book at the moment all about marketing your country business or your business in the country. And one of the chapters is actually about aligning yourself with a charity. And I actually start that chapter off going, I'm going to talk about money and aligning yourself with a charity. If that makes you uncomfortable, click past this chapter, because I think it's amazing to align yourself with a charity, but you're a business owner. So there's got to be something in it for you. But because I feel that people are a little bit icky. It's like, oh, I don't want to earn money. So yeah, I was like,
Yeah.
right up, skip this chapter if this is going to make you uncomfortable, because I'm talking about earning money by doing this strategy. So
Yeah. Firstly, I think it's fantastic that you're writing a book. That is going to be amazing, and congratulations. Honestly,
thank
that's
you.
incredible. I can't tell you how many people that I work with that aren't paying themselves a consistent wage. They skip their wage when it comes to it because there's not enough money in the bank account. But also, when they break it down, they're paying themselves less than their staff members and things like that. And I think part of it is one, money's not turning over as much as they like. So there's not enough money left at the end of the day to pay themselves properly. But also, I think we have that, most Australians are really good people. And when we have team members and we have expenses, we have that mentality of like, we're going to pay everyone first. Like, we're going to make sure that everyone that I deal with is looked after. And then it's okay if I don't pay myself, I come second, which, you know what, it is a really great mentality to have. And it's very aspirational of Australians to be like that. It's one of the qualities that I love about Australians. But at the same time, how long can that go for? If that's only a short period of time where you've got to hustle and you're sacrificing for the business, fine, do it for a couple of months. But if it's going past a couple of months and you're not getting that scale of the business to then pay yourself the wage that you need to, then you really need to look at everything and reassess and go, as you said, why am I doing this? What is happening here? Because things have to change quickly. Otherwise, I could just go to another job and earn more money and not have the stress of holding the fort of everything else.
Yes.
It's crazy, but I guess, again, sometimes as well, people are just transferring money or, paying themselves bits at a time. So they're not even really aware of what they're paying themselves a lot of the time either. So there's a lot of factors, I think.
Yeah, and perhaps if they did learn, the profit first method, or they did learn more about their money, they might even realize that there is money there to be paying themselves, and they're just not seeing the money that they could be paying themselves. So, yeah, I think learning about your money. So, if you're listening to this podcast and money's not your thing, be brave, print out that profit and loss, have a bit of a look at where you're sitting with your money, and maybe, even get in contact with Amy and, discuss what that could look like for sure. But how do you manage inconsistent cash flow? Because cash flow is in its very nature a flow. So we have, some businesses have high highs, low lows, but how do we get that? I guess, I don't know, Amy, you tell me, is there any business that actually has an even cash flow, or we all got like peaks and troughs, or
Sometimes
yeah.
some businesses do have relatively stable months of income and expenses where they're trading. I don't know, I'm just gonna make it up, but like $35,000, might go up to 40 and then 35, and it's quite
Mm,
typical to have a stable cash flow. But a lot of businesses aren't like that. And as you said,
mm,
they have peaks and troughs. And I think also that confuses business owners because they don't really know where they're at financially because of those peaks and troughs. Like, well, I know I have good months, but then I have really bad months, or, lower months of revenue. I don't really like the word bad. And then they're like, well, I just don't know where I'm at. I don't know how much I can afford to invest because I'm just confused, right? But one way that we teach to be able to get an understanding of inconsistent cash flow is to manage your cash flow using averages. So that's looking at a period of time. 12 months is a good amount. You can do it on 6 months or 3 months if you haven't got that data. But looking at, your revenue over that, say, 12-month period, dividing it by 12 and going, what was my monthly average revenue? And then what's my monthly average expenses? Because then if you look at it on averages, it just kind of, hate to say it, but it averages out. So you can get your expenses to a point that suits that average income. And so then when you have better months, it's just going to leave a surplus of money in the expenses account to pay for those lower months. Another really brilliant thing that you can do is you can account for those lower months. Like if you have a seasonal business and you know that your revenue, for example, is a lot less in winter, you can look at those averages, and then you can have a drip account, which is a separate bank account, and you can actually be putting a percentage of cash flow every allocation, whether you do your transfers weekly or fortnightly or monthly, whatever suits your business, but you can understand it and then put a percentage of cash flow into that drip account so that when you do have that lower months, you've got a buffer of money there ready to go to account for it.
yeah, such great advice. I love this. I've really loved this conversation. Thank you so much, Amy, for coming on and sharing all your wisdom with my listener, and I guess, maybe even giving them a nudge to go and have a look at their P&L, or go and have a look at their bank account and do some analysis. And I guess reach out to someone if they feel that they need help. But any final bits of wisdom, or anything we haven't sort of touched on that you would like to touch on before we finish up?
I think really it's just reiterating, just don't be scared about money. It's not as hard
Mm.
as what you think it is, honestly. Once you get a simple system in place, you really will feel so much better about your entire business and your own capability. So just take that first step, just to be like, I know I need money's important in my business, recognize it, and get that clarity. Because once you do that, yeah, you've just got so much more empowerment and awareness over your business, and things just become better. So that's just my little pep talk at the end of the episode.
Beautiful. Oh, thank you so much for coming on again and sharing everything you've shared. If my listener would like to get in contact or learn a little bit more about the courses and the programs you run, where's the best place to contact Amy?
Yeah, sure. So if you head to my website, amybet.com, amybett.com, you can go on there and there's a free masterclass that you can actually sign up and watch within a day or two. I actually go through the entire process of how to set up, what bank accounts you need for your business, how to allocate your cash flow. It's quite informative. So that's a really good place to start. There's also other information on my website if you do want to come and join our community and be part of a part of my program. But I always tell people, go and utilize the free information first. Go and watch the masterclass, and just get yourself familiar with what having an understanding of cash flow can really look like.
Yeah, beautiful. And you've got a podcast as well. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I've got the Lady That Limits podcast, and really it is an awesome platform where I talk with one of my co-hosts who is over in the US, Mallory, and we talk all things money and marketing. She's the marketing guru. I love talking about money, and we just have a good riff about business, the highs and the lows, and some stories in between. So that's a weekly podcast. To be honest, it hasn't been live for the last couple of months because there's been so much going on with my side hustle, but we're recording now that it's the new financial year. We're recording some new episodes that'll be live in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, beautiful. Okay, I will have the links to all of that in the show notes. But otherwise, thank you again for coming on. It's been a great conversation. It sounds amazing, and I am going to go and print off my profit and loss and have another look as well, just in case there's some things snuck in there. So thank you for the nudge.
And thank you so much for having me. I've absolutely loved getting to know you and this conversation too.
Yeah, pleasure. I hope you really enjoyed that. And like me, you head to your financial statements now to have a bit of a look see to see what you can find and really just think, sit back and have a think about that profit first model and what it looks like for your business. How could that transform your business? I'm sure Amy would love to get in touch if you've got any queries or questions or want to learn more. All of her links are, of course, in the show notes, which can be found at socialmediaandmarketing.com.au/256. If you'd like to continue the chat, then I would love for you to join me in my Facebook group, Like Minded Business Owners. Head over there and let's chat more about everything, all about small business, or we can chat about finances and the profit first model as well. But that's it for episode 256. If you love this episode, can I ask a really big favor? Could you take 30 seconds out of your day and leave me a rating and a review if you're listening anywhere where you can actually do that, which I think is mostly in Apple Podcasts, but I'm sure on Spotify you can leave me a little comment as well. Because one of the goals of mine is to reach more people with this podcast, and the year is closing out fast. So I need to lift my game there as well. But by leaving me a review, you can help me just a little bit to achieve that goal. I will, of course, be back next week for episode 257. Thanks again to Seller Dash for sponsoring today's episode. Don't forget to look up their amazing time saving Shopify app. Or if you're in e-commerce or have a Shopify store, of course, go and check them out at sellerdash.io. It could be one of the best things you do in business today. And don't forget about checking out all the details for my email marketing masterclass. You can find them at bit.ly/email masterclass with Jen, or just come to the show notes and get the link there. In the meantime, if we aren't hanging out on social, let's get social on social. You can find me on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and of course you can find me on Threads as well. But whatever you do, remember, my small business peep, as my opening song says, there is no point in dreaming small.
No time like the present. Tell it like you feel it, say it proud, be true, and let us see you for the star that you are. No point in dreaming small.
I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land, the Yorta Yorta people, on which I record this podcast and conduct my business today, and pay my respects to their elders, past and present. I extend this respect to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here with us today as well.